Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Exit Stage Left. I'm your host, Alicia Trimble, with my brother and co-host, John Trimble. Today, we're going to be doing a political analysis of the debate that took place on July 30th and 31st, 2019. Maybe we should split this into two different segments, and first we can talk about the debate that took place on July 30th, and then we can talk about the one that took place the next day on the 31st.
Sure, all right.
Now, I want to start with what I and I think you like to call exit stage right.
Exit stage right, yes.
Let's talk about the four people that probably shouldn't have been in the debate anyway.
That sounds good.
Okay. And for me, those four were Delaney, Ryan, Hickenlooper, and Bullock.
That makes sense. Delaney did have his say, but the others seem like they're just not there.
As far as I'm concerned, they're all Republicans, all four of them. And Delaney's the only one that I think even got any talking time. He managed to insert himself a lot, but his points were Republican talking points, for lack of a better term.
They were. Perhaps Reagan Democrat, very conservative. Heritage Foundation wrote the bill. He wants to put his health care back in the early 90s, that kind of Democrat.
He didn't come out swinging, but he just kept tripping over and stumbling over his own thoughts and ideas, and he kept getting slammed back by both Warren and Sanders.
I don't think that's what the people really want, or what Democrats in general want from that. He definitely just proposed Obamacare. We have Obamacare. The Republicans aren't going to work with it. We know they're not going to work with it, and Medicare for All seems to be a better solution. And it's Elizabeth Warren said we shouldn't run from the big ideas, and Delaney seems to be a runner.
Well, and, we're Democrats. The fact that we're not talking about universal health care, as in single-payer health care on every level with every single different person on that stage, just seems almost irresponsible. I mean, and further, my biggest problem with Delaney is the fact that he's probably got what they think at least over $3 million invested in the healthcare industry as it stands. He stands to lose money if we go to a single-payer system, so of course he's against it.
I think his background as well, given that he was born, I think, in '63. His father was a union member when union members were something. There isn't unions in the same way anymore.
Yeah, they don't have the same negotiating power they did back then. Delaney's also worth, what, they said $65 million during the debate? That's an incredible amount of money.
That is tons. So his whole life, he's went to a private school, and the man did work. He got scholarships to go to college, but then went straight into private health care.
Yeah, and
he's never had to, essentially, like his father, he never had to work for a union to get that. He never had to deal with any of this.
Yeah, and I think further, it's, I can see people who were in the private health industry and became fed up with it and said, I am going to do something about it. I'm going to run for Congress. I'm going to, run for president. But I can't see someone who thinks that the healthcare system worked for them personally and then think it's okay to run on the Democratic ticket, acting like if we just keep going with the status quo, it's going to be okay.
Well, there's an interesting point, too. He said that we'll just kick 160 million people off. I don't think it's going to be quite that simple. It's going to be a transition period, as well as 160 million. What is that, half the population? So his big gripe is that half the population has private insurance. Well, that just means we failed.
Yeah.
If only half the population can get private insurance, we obviously need Medicare for at least half the United States population. But he's afraid that people will get kicked off their plan. It's not you who gets kicked off your plan. It's your employer who kicks you off your plan, or your insurance company when they decide they no longer want to be with you. They can leave at any time.
Yeah. So one other issue I think you really should talk about, John, because you're really more of an expert in this area than I am, is Delaney's healthcare plan, because it's based on Medicare Advantage plans. And you want to fill us in a little bit about what Medicare Advantage plans actually are?
Sure, Alicia. Medicare Advantage plans are simply a private way to go about your Medicare. I believe they were introduced in the 90s as the Republican Revolution took over and Clinton kind of went right. What they basically do is they work, they're an HMO, they work like your private work plan. they will decide which doctors you see, and you might have to get a referral. They're also paid a capitation rate by the federal government for simply enrolling people, which means that they're making more money getting the same services. They have the option to provide more services than original Medicare, but there's no guarantee they will. On top of that, with the doctor's referrals you'll need, and they decide which doctors you'll see, they may or may not have a hospital you want to go to, a doctor you want to see, and they'll be making more money delivering the same essential services. They're just a simple way for a CEO to get rich off the people's Medicare. The state's population already has some type of government insurance. Why would we fear switching that over to moving the other 66% over? It's set up where your private insurance programs can just drop now. It's a business. Businesses fail. The United States government has not failed yet. And since 1776, we've been a going concern. Aetna, Blue Cross, these other places have not. Let's go with the proven government. It works. If we made it to the moon, if we could build nuclear bombs in the 40s, we could certainly provide health insurance after winning World War II.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. So we should probably move on. To finish up with Delaney,
his exit right moment.
His exit right moment, as we like to call it. I believe that, didn't he say that he was talking about the progressives having, quote, fairy tale policies.
Yes.
And this is when Warren's big moment, I think, of the debate came. At least one of them. She had several, I have to admit. But she said,
I don't understand why anybody goes to all the trouble of running for president of the United States just to talk about what we really can't do and shouldn't fight for.
and I think that pretty much sums up how most Democrats actually probably feel about Delaney. He's polling at 0.
Yes, Delaney is, let's fight for the same.
Yeah. Let's keep things as they are now.
So why vote for, why vote for him if he just wants to continue the same?
Yeah.
We already have Obamacare. Let's make it better. Let's transition into a Medicare for all. Or at least something much better than what Delaney has with his Medicare Advantage, which is a fantasy plan because it allows CEOs to take our money where Medicare, we are the Medicare, we are the people. So exit right, John Delaney.
Yeah, exit stage right, my man. Get out of there. All right. Well, next we should probably talk about our next 3 exit stage writers. They are Ryan, Hickenlooper, and Bullock. Honestly, I don't think we're going to have as much to say about these guys because they were kind of absent during
well, I
during the
was
whole
say
debate.
Delaney, he was a bull for doing nothing, for saying nothing. He said it loudly.
Yeah. Ryan's probably best known during the debate for getting smacked down by Bernie.
It will be better because Medicare for All is comprehensive. It covers all healthcare needs for senior citizens. It will finally include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
But you don't know
Second of all,
you don't know that,
second
Bernie.
of all,
We'll come to you in a second,
I do know, and
Congressman.
I wrote the damn bill.
Exit right.
Yeah,
That's
exit
pretty much
right.
it.
Yeah,
I don't think he
so-
had much more to say in the debate, really.
Yeah,
it was
other
pretty
than
silly.
I think he wanted to reevaluate steel tariffs and he would not stop about the chief manufacturing officer, which was driving me nuts. I'm like, can you like make that into an acronym or just stop saying it all the time? Because he kept saying it over and over again. So and then Hickenlooper, he called Bernie a socialist. That was, I think, his big moment of the night. Not because he called Bernie a socialist, but because how Pete Buttigieg actually responded.
Time to stop worrying about what the Republicans will say. Look,
Yes.
if it's true that if we embrace a far-left agenda, they're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. If we embrace a conservative agenda, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. So let's just stand up for the right policy, go out there and defend it.
Exactly.
And that was very good. And to paraphrase,
Mayor
he
Pete
basically
smacked him down here.
Mayor Pete smacked him down. And what Mayor Pete essentially said is, why are you worried if they call us socialists? It doesn't matter how far right or how far left we are. They're going to call us socialists.
Exactly.
It's just a talking point to rally their base, and that is it.
And that, I think, was pretty much his stage right, almost.
Yeah. He attacked the Green New Deal.
The Green New Deal is vague, so it's also hard to attack, but they need to flesh that one out.
They did. They needed to flesh that out. One thing I did want to touch on, again, because you know quite a bit on this subject, is the talk about nuclear weapons. So Hickenlooper, this started because Elizabeth Warren had said she wouldn't preemptively drop a nuclear weapon on another country. Not preemptively. She did not say she would not use them at all. Now, John Hickenlooper came right out and said he absolutely would, which I actually found a little bit terrifying. We're a little different on this position, but I think there's a few things to realize here. First of all, as has not been mentioned, we are the only country that's dropped a nuclear bomb in another country, and we dropped 2. Second, I want to clear up this issue because I was listening to some talk after the debate from Hassan Piker and others where they were saying, oh no, the U.S. was bad for dropping that bomb. And I don't want to get too off the subject here, but I think it's important to realize that the nuclear bombs we dropped in World War II are not anything like the nuclear bombs we have now.
Exactly.
We have conventional weapons, non-nuclear weapons that do far more damage than an A-bomb would do.
Right now we have weapons delivered from well, by the way, I'm not exactly an expert or know too much, but I know that we have ICBMs, which can go into the atmosphere and launch multiple nuclear warheads. We have submarines that can sneak right up to a coast. There are plenty of ways to drop a bomb, or to actually deliver a bomb. Dropping a bomb, which we can do, is probably not how we would do it now. We wouldn't load it into an airplane and drop it as we did in World War II. That was the most primitive way. And those bombs would not have the explosive capability. Those bombs did not have the capability to damage a city like the ones we do now. Would we do it? I don't know. That's such a crazy scenario that I don't think anyone could really say, would I drop or would I send a nuclear missile to some other country?
Yeah.
What about if North Korea did hit the United States? I think it's such a hypothetical that it's not really even worth talking about in a certain sense.
And chances are, if it were delivered by air, which, as John said, is probably unlikely, we do have a missile defense system.
Yes.
So, and it's probably come down and pollute the, ocean or something, but...
they didn't mention biological weapons, which would seem like a great way. And there's so many ways to sneak in a weapon through our ports, which we don't guard. We talk about the border and securing this border with Mexico. We don't talk about securing our ports. There's no way how do drugs get in? They get in through the ports. That's how illegal weapons are going to be. If there's ever an attack in the United States, it'd probably come from a port anyway. Not an expert here, but I don't think the nuclear weapons talk, I thought that was just kind of odd.
Yeah, I thought it was, and again, I'm not, I don't know if we said this yet. The CNN, well, it was obviously the audio. Okay, CNN is a cable news channel. They're trying to get views, and it was obvious at the beginning they were trying to pit Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders against each other. Now, that didn't work so well. They were kung fu fighting back to back, as I think Cenk Uygur said on the Young Turks. But what we did find was they were bringing up these really odd. Elizabeth Warren said I won't drop a nuke preemptively. Okay, that gets said during a whole campaign with 20 some different candidates. Why is CNN bringing this up at all?
I feel they're trying to bring up Republican war hawk talking points, which it was just a stupid thing for CNN to drop. Yeah. To bring up. When have we dropped a nuclear bomb last? 60 some years ago? Or why are we talking about it? We know we have the capability. We know that America's never going to get rid of the capability. And we want it in our arsenal because it scares the heck out of anyone else.
Yeah, very
Why
true.
does Iran want a nuclear weapon?
Because it scares
Why does
people.
North Korea won't give this up? Why is Trump having such trouble giving it? It is their protection. It's our protection. I don't see that situation happening now, though, with Elizabeth Warren being asked that. So, what an odd question.
Yeah, it was an odd question and again, I think they were at that point they were trying to separate the war hawks from the non-war hawks and trying to cause a fight.
I think that's what it was. Is Elizabeth Warren going to be a coward? And no, you don't have a weapon as big as the United States arsenal and not.
Yeah. And then that leaves us with the exit stage writers with Steve Bullock. And
who's Steve Bullock again? Literally.
He wasn't even in the first. He didn't even qualify for the first set of debates. The only thing I have a few notes about him, but my first note was his opening statement. He talked about just going north of his state, because he's from Montana, to get drugs for so much cheaper. And I thought, really, you're saying this 3 days after Bernie did this well-publicized bus ride?
Bernie got out
to
in
get
front
insulin.
of him there.
Yeah, he got out in front of him, definitely did. Prove that insulin's a tenth of the price in Canada, and they're still making a buck off of it up there. So,
having lived in Canada myself, I have seen people go to the hospital without the stress of what it's going to cost. While in the United States, I have seen people not call an ambulance for a serious bike accident. I saw like a man flip over his bike and smack his face into there. Teeth messed up, and he would not allow any of us to call an ambulance. In Canada, I saw a man who got sick after eating mushrooms, very dangerous allergy, but he called an ambulance. We could have simply drove him, but no, they didn't even think about us getting a friend to drive someone to the hospital. They called an ambulance who came and took him. Did he have any exit? Did he get defeated in anything here? Because I don't.
Exit stage right. I mean, like, guys, okay, this
He was
is how I
just
take
so
notes,
unforgettable
but
that he just faded to stage right.
yeah, he faded to stage right. Really, I don't even have a whole lot on him. I don't know if
He was just so unmemorable. Honestly, poor guy. Like
I kind of feel bad for him, but I really don't, because he's in the exit stage right crew. I'll be honest. I don't feel bad for him. I don't think he should be running. But so our next so then we have to break these up in kind of into other groups. So
Is there a middle of the pack there?
So my kind of middle of the pack, because they were like, we're Klobuchar or O'Rourke.
Yes.
You know, I felt like nothing very memorable happened when they spoke. Again, they didn't have as much.
Klobuchar did have the talk on race. Was that her?
No, I think you're thinking of the next night with Gillibrand.
Gosh, see that's how memorable they are.
Yeah, Klobuchar focused a lot on beating Trump, her working class roots. In talking about Trump's Russia, she did talk about being from the Midwest. Now, John and I are from the Midwest. We currently still live here, and we live here again. So we've lived other places and come back. But you know,
the Midwest will suck you back like a black hole. That's the old saying here.
Good way to say it. Yeah. So I knew Klobuchar wasn't the most progressive candidate out there, but I had much higher hopes for Klobuchar than what I ended up getting. Now, and we should do a whole nother episode on this, but one reason I had high hopes for her is because in the Midwest, and especially the rural, more impoverished Midwest, the Democratic Party is thought of as coastal elites. So I thought if we had, I thought it could be very powerful to have a presidential candidate in the Democratic ticket who was from the Midwest.
That's true. This East Coast thing does get tiring. Where there was Paul Ryan was from, I know it's Kevin McCarthy from California now, so they're getting rather coastal with the president from the East Coast and Kevin McCarthy, the minority leader from the West Coast. McConnell is still from Kentucky, though, which is a very heart of America issue. Paul Ryan was from Wisconsin, another very rural. The Green Bay Packers come from a city of what, under 100,000 maybe? It's considered a working class. It went for Trump.
Yeah.
It definitely, them picking their middle America went that way, where Bernie Sanders doesn't sound like he's anywhere near. He hasn't lost that New York accent, even if he's in Vermont.
Yeah, and, you know, it's...
Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts.
Yeah, she's originally from Oklahoma. She does have a little bit of a twang still, but she's thought about as being from Massachusetts.
I can't even see her from Oklahoma. That makes no...
Yeah, and I think, you know, again, it's with this Democrat, you know, rural, poorer Americans do much better when Democrats are in office, but for whatever reason, they often don't think they do. So they vote Republican, Trump just signed an executive order to cover, how much in food stamps? I mean, he does nothing to help the class of people we're actually talking about. So
that's very true.
Yeah. So, and then Beto, what do we have on Beto?
He's kind of a fallen star. I mean, he rose with Ted Cruz, and I think he jumped the gun here running for president, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he was on that wave, and he thought he might have something.
He's definitely not has a charisma of a Kennedy. If he had won, there you go. Yeah. He could have been a Barack Obama. I think he reminds me of a Barack Obama. So does Mayor Pete, actually, but we'll get on him a little bit later. Yeah. But O'Rourke is a Texan Obama, which...
Yeah. Yeah, I loved Beto when he was running against Cruz because he is a million times better than Cruz. Like, the ant that's crawled across the picnic table is a million times better than Cruz. I'd vote for him for Senate first, but I mean the ant, not Cruz. But it's kind of like he's not ready for prime time.
Exactly. He needs more time. He's just not ready for it yet. This, maybe this will get him somewhere. Yeah. I don't know. Good for Beto. I have nothing against him. He just didn't shine.
Yeah, no, he didn't shine. He seems so out there when he was running for Senate, and maybe it's just because
he was fresh against
was
Cruz,
fresh.
who actually,
and
though,
he gave Cruz a run for his money.
well, Cruz also is never going to be liked by Trump now. And so after Trump made fun of his wife, anything Cruz does looks like he's just kowtowing to Trump and bootlicking. And so there's no respect for Cruz, but what better option do they have in Texas? Because as the Republican majority there is not going to vote for Beto, even if... So now they literally have a Texas bootlicking Trump senator from Texas.
Yeah.
And you know what? The GOP's fine with that.
And they are fine
So
with that.
really, that's the problem there. And he doesn't look good with a beard. I know that's a cheap shot, but he didn't look good without a beard either. So I guess Ted Cruz is... Calgary Cruz, as we should actually call him.
He's right.
He's not from America. Isn't that interesting? He was born in a foreign country.
Yeah.
While he holds American citizenship at birth, because he was born of American citizen, America did not know he was born until his mother told them.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, for many days, he was Canadian before he was even American.
Yeah.
Ergo, he's an immigrant in a certain way.
He is an immigrant, but
His
in
father,
his mind,
Cuban.
in his mind, he's white, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. Some of Beto's greatest hits were that he said he wanted to remove troops in the first year in office. He
I
was
like
against the tariffs,
Strong position, yeah.
which have been horrible to the Midwest.
Yes,
we
the
are
farmers,
in
it's not going to recover. China used to be the fourth biggest importer of soybeans, or wheat.
wheat.
Wheat from
Soybeans,
the-
I think, they might be the first.
Yeah, from the United States, but now China's just found alternate places, and we're helping the Brazilian economy grow as we lose it. How long are we going to keep subsidizing these farmers? We shouldn't have to subsidize. This should be a money-making venture. It's the Midwest. Growing food is the one thing we do well. You know, we make great cheddar. We make great sausage. We make great everything dealing with farm to table. The Midwest is the best part of the country to go for this. Trump is ruining this, and
Yeah.
the Republicans and many farmers are just backing this.
You know, after the soybean tariff was put on, which is disastrous, Iowa farmers typically rotate soybeans and corn for cattle feed. It's not actually sweet corn you see growing everywhere. It's actually animal feed. But, you know, when they put that tariff on soybeans, these guys in China deciding where the tariffs are going are not dummies, okay? If you lay Trump's map over top of a soybean map, they match up exactly. Little dots in North Carolina that happen to grow soybeans are little pockets of Trump supporters.
Exactly.
It was true. I've never
Yeah.
seen a correlation like that, just randomly putting two maps together and be like, woof, the Chinese know what they're doing. Yeah, Beto said a little bit on hate crimes.
He also just, for a rising star at a time, and he didn't say much, but it's interesting. He did mention that his descendants, he was descendants of slave owners, which is interesting, but I don't know what that bought him in the campaign. He announced
O'Rourke?
it. Yeah, Beto O'Rourke's family was slave owners at one time.
Oh, slave owners. Okay.
Yeah, he's
Sorry.
descendant of slave owners. Okay, I know
Okay.
that's not a great thing to, but I mean,
I wouldn't be touting it. On the other hand, if someone asks you, you tell them
be
the truth.
totally open about it, but
Yeah.
it's not Beto's fault for that. It's also just an odd thing. It seemed like a reach, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it
Like,
did.
I wouldn't proudly admit if my family had been slave owners, but my family also benefited from slavery.
All white Americans almost have benefited from slavery.
Yeah, and so I'm guilty of that. It's nothing that any of us can help. However, just saying it is very odd for Beto. It seemed like he's been reaching, and then he didn't. His star has been done.
Yeah, he's done. But we were talking about this. We have 10 more debates.
Yeah.
10 more debates. It sounds insane. There are higher standards to get in the next debate, but because of that, I have decided if I ruled the world that I would let Klobuchar and O'Rourke stay in for one more debate because they did so much better than the bottom four.
I think that they weren't exactly like a shove to stage right. They just didn't shine.
They didn't
very well.
shine. Yeah. The next one we should probably talk about is Buttigieg, Mayor Pete,
Mayor Pete, young guy.
young guy.
He's not 40 yet. He was a junior when Columbine happened. So as he said, we're on the second generation of shooters. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was interesting. He was the first generation to experience high school shooters en masse, such as the two boys, which were almost just young men, boys yet, who killed 12 or 13 people and wounded how many?
Yeah, it was
in that horrible Littleton, Colorado tragedy years
Yeah.
ago. 20 years ago now. 21 years
makes
ago.
you feel old, doesn't it?
Well, it makes gun violence feel old is really what it is.
Yeah.
But the problem is we've become accustomed to gun violence, and I don't see exactly how we're going to stop it here. And his realization that we're raising the second generation of gun violence and how he talks to families of gun violence, I don't know how we stop this, especially when Republican states will allow you to have a gun.
Yeah, well, and it's becoming so prevalent. I've seen this twice now. I saw it at the shooting at this garlic festival this last weekend, and then when there was that country nightclub shooting in California.
Yeah, in fact, didn't one of the survivors of was it the Parkland shooting get killed? I don't know if it was a Parkland shooting. A survivor of another, the nightclub in Miami. Or
I can't remember, but I
Yeah,
saw at that there had been a person who had seen 2 of those shootings. I think he might have died. I'm not
yeah,
sure.
I think that was his second shooting. He got killed. So
and then last,
it was the Las Vegas shooting.
I think it was Las Vegas.
It was a Las
shooting.
Vegas because they were a country. It was a country
Interesting.
club, and so this person who didn't get killed by the mass shooter in Las Vegas
Yeah.
got themselves killed by another mass shooter.
So interestingly, I was reading this morning that 3 of the people at the Garlic Festival had been at the Las Vegas concert that was shot up as well.
It's starting to happen. We're starting to
So
get people in
these
multiple shootings
are
now.
so frequent. There's been more mass shootings than days in the year this year, people. I mean, it's getting so frequent that people are having to live through multiple traumatic mass shootings. I mean, what are we doing? But anyway, so that was a very good point on Mayor Pete's part. I thought he was a little stronger on his position on Medicare for all. He was, saying people could, the exit stage right people were saying, people want choice. But, he was clear in saying that people want Medicare for all.
Yes, I don't think he has a great plan on it. I think he's a bit weak on some of his policies, and I don't think he just has a great policy of it. Yet
Yeah.
a person his age, you wouldn't thinks about insurance too much unless they've had some kind of thing.
Yeah, well, and he is. I mean, I like Mayor Pete. He's having some real troubles in his own community, but at any point, I think he's a little bit, not ready for prime time also. And then, but he did do so much better than he did in the first debate. It was actually almost painful to watch him in the first debate, but,
Mayor Pete did come back. He didn't shine, I don't think. He just was
he
better.
was not quite as dull as he was last time.
Yeah.
It feels like he's learning in these debates, maybe.
I think that's his thing. He might have jumped the gun like Beto did in a way. He's mayor of a suburb of Chicago in Indiana, actually. And maybe he needs a little more. But then again, I mean, Barack Obama also... Well, Barack Obama had problems in his first term, especially trying to deal with Republicans who didn't want to deal with him. Mayor Pete does give off that we can work together vibe, which I don't think right now is needed. So I think he's just, right now, he's stuck in this I'm going to be nice Mayor Pete when he needs to be kick-ass Pete.
The Democrats right now are so far right. If we get someone who just falls into that, we're going to be so much farther right by the time we in this next administration.
We will indeed, yeah. So it's time for Mayor Pete to stop being nice.
Yeah.
That's
I
really
think
what he has to do.
Yeah, I agree. Ready? One other person we have to talk about, we have to do it, is Marianne Williamson. And she's not on my exit stage right left list yet. I know she's kind of closer on your side.
Well, she just isn't, there isn't much of her.
No.
That's the reason why she's...
Yeah, well, and I would have definitely said exit stage right after the last set of debates. And she did kind of have a couple of hokier statements, but she also had some really good thought through statements. And there were a couple of times when she actually got a chance to talk where she basically said, "Cut it out, kids."
She did appear very adult in it, and she also schooled the conservative, or classical liberal, as he calls himself, Dave Rubin. She sat down with an interview with Dave Rubin and basically said that as a Jewish woman, she can't see the Holocaust as worse than slavery.
Yeah.
There isn't a monopoly on pain. And that's what Dave Rubin was trying to do, was assign monopoly on pain. She appeared to be an adult in that and schooled Dave Rubin. And the problem is, I don't think she has quite the experience to shout down the rest of it. But given a one-on-one, she might actually kick butt.
No, it's just that Trump's not a person who's going to have a conversation. He's not really capable of complete sentences. You know what I mean?
Well, it's true. He talks to one person, and since
Yeah.
he's always had the money, and he's never applied for a job in his life, so he's never had to listen to anyone, and that's a problem. And
Yeah.
I think her policies could be good. She does have that checkered holistic past.
Checkered holistic past.
Um,
No, I do. I have some. She is not for vaccinations. That's a definite issue. For
yeah,
me.
that's wrong. And that's almost an exit stage right.
Yeah, that
she's,
is.
She's going to get children killed that way. She's going to get adults killed. So
Yeah,
that's,
no, I think that definitely needs to be rethought on her part. And interestingly enough, we'll talk about it here kind of as the one reason she's probably staying in for sure, at least one more debate, or in my mind, she's probably not really going to be there in real life, is her response on reparations. So this was a very strong response, the strongest response
was,
we
yeah.
saw that probably that we saw, I think, every night. And she came out right away and said that reparations need to be $200 to $500 billion. She had a formula she figured it out on. No formula is going to be perfect, but at least she thought this through very well. However, I do want to add that I don't think she quite articulated every part of her plan because
it's hard to in the limited time as well.
Yeah, I did go onto her website and look because how is this money being distributed? That is the big question about reparations, right? People think these are just going to be cash payments to individuals. Well, that's not the best way to give reparations, right?
True,
so
true.
She does say on her website that she would get together in a council of esteemed African Americans and they would decide how that money was distributed, whether that went to low-income schools, neighborhoods, what healthcare services, whatever, or were just straight payments that she would leave to a group of people she felt knew more than herself on the subject, which I think is also a very good statement.
It is. It definitely is. It's such a little talked about one that she came out swinging on that at least.
Yeah, yeah. She's also, I was on her site, I didn't read the whole thing, but she also has some talking points on what the United States has done to Native American populations, which I also thought was very well thought through. I mean, what happened in the Americas was the largest case of genocide ever, and it says a lot that she's thought these through, and maybe some of our other candidates haven't.
That's true.
So that is why I would let her stay for another debate.
Well, there's plenty of people, and yeah,
Yeah.
her vaccination thing, though,
That
that does only scare me. That almost is an automatic
that is
stage
a public
exit.
health nightmare
Right.
right there. Yeah. So if we're done with Marianne, you know who that leaves us with?
So what, our top tier here, exit
Yeah.
stage left.
Exit
Or
stage
actu-
left.
The ones we
Kung
actually...
Fu Fighting Man. Now I saw. I think I mentioned this. Cenk Uygur was saying that someone had said to him that it was like Warren and Sanders were kung fu fighting back to back. It was
They
kind of
are.
cool.
It's interesting. They don't have too many different policy differences here.
No, and I appreciated the fact they were adults.
Yeah.
And that they were smacking down the little Republicans on the side, too. There's no reason for them not to get along on the debate stage, and they are friends in person.
So,
We've talked a lot about what Bernie and Elizabeth have done, and I'm calling them by my first names because I feel like I know them, have done in reference to the other candidates. They both have clear, articulate plans for healthcare. They both, I think, I have not always been happy with Warren's foreign policy, but I think that they both are, what's the best way to put it? They are not going to get us into any wars.
exactly.
I think that that's
They won't go looking
hugely,
for wars,
hugely
which is
important.
going to mean the military-industrial complex will not be happy on them. I do like the fact that they... it was very much a Republican talking point to say that, are you going to raise taxes on the middle class to pay for health care? Warren did say overall costs. Now, Bernie did come out and say no. She kind of sidestepped it and did say overall costs will come down. So you might have to pay something, but it'll pay less, which is fair that she said that, but also kind of scary. But she didn't put herself out there where if Bernie gets forced to get a plan where the overall cost comes down, but you do have to pay something. Medicare also costs $100 a month or about, so I'm not sure
No,
anymore.
Part B.
Yeah, so
If you don't have Part A, man, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And Part A is what you pay into when you pay your paycheck.
yeah, Part A is your hospital stay, and Part B is your medical doctor's visits. You do have to pay for that, so Medicare is not free.
No, it's
So
not.
when Bernie's talking about this, there are costs, and it's impossible to flesh this out entirely until you're in committee.
There are costs. And remember, even if you just have original Medicare, it's only going to pay 80% of most of your bills after deductibles and copays. So in the end, it's not even going to pay it's not even going to pay 80%.
And right now, it doesn't include vision or dental. So
or
this
hearing, I
is
believe, right? It doesn't cover
yeah,
hearing aids.
It doesn't cover hearing aids. That's true.
Warren and Sanders both have student debt relief plans. Bernie's would remove all student debt, I believe, and Warren's is $500 million.
Yeah.
They also want tuition-free college. Some of the others suggested that. I think maybe Buttigieg did. Some of them want 2-year free college. I have no idea why we have... In California, community college is subsidized. It's not in the rest of the country, or at least as far as I know. It definitely is not in Iowa. Yeah, and I think, they're both good on their fossil fuel views. They both want to be carbon neutral, or as close as they can be. They have both fought racism and sexism, consumer fraud. Warren, what is now? I'm blanking on the name of the agent. Is it the consumer fraud?
She made it, yeah.
Yeah, she created it before she was even in the Senate.
Senate.
I mean, these people, both Warren and Sanders, have been fighting the same fight they're fighting now for a very long time, which I think means they're dedicated and they're not doing it to get elected.
They've been fighting for labor and the middle class since the beginning.
It's funny that we have the least to say about them because we're like, yeah, that's good, that's good, that's good. And we
Their plans are simple and well articulated.
and they're well spelled out. If you want to know how they're going to pay for anything, go on their website and read it. It is there and it does make sense. I was this and and the next night Booker, they're doing a little bit of swearing. Now Booker was just quoting the president saying shithole countries, but
We didn't really talk about Booker, did we?
well, he's in the next night,
Yeah.
so we'll get to that. We can probably move on to the next night. Yeah.
And we're going to discuss, I think, our first exit stage
Stage
right.
right,
Who do
yeah.
we not like and want to go to the right of the stage and leave the
Yeah,
debate?
I think I only had one needs to get out of there right now because you're a Republican, and for me that was Bennett.
Yeah.
That was definitely Bennett, the senator from Colorado.
Boring Bennett. Not very energized, was anti-Medicare for all, and just boring.
Yeah, boring.
That's kind of, sorry, man. It's hard to talk about you when
yeah,
you
there's
didn't energize
not much
yourself
to
enough
say.
to get noticed.
And I have to say, there's not a whole lot to talk about this whole debate. It was, there was,
The entire debate was rather
Yeah.
unenergized and boring. It was
yeah.
It was Friday. It was either a Friday at the end of work or a Monday at the beginning of the work with this debate.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
not
it
any
was-
fun.
For instance, we are filming the day after the second debate, and I can remember the debate 2 days ago better than the debate last
It
night.
was.
It was. Yeah.
In fact, I made a mistake and watched the first debate, or the debate the night before last, and it totally screwed me over for what I know in
like
this
who
debate.
was
because
in
I
what
know
debate?
because
And
now-
it's even
yeah.
harder because they were in different groupings in the first debate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for
Yeah,
Bennett.
goodbye,
is
Bennett.
exit
Go
stage
that
right.
direction.
Yeah.
And okay, bye, Bennett.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Bennett.
Bye-bye, boring Bennett.
Yes. So you want to talk a little bit about Inslee next? Governor from
Inslee-
Washington?
Inslee had some charisma going there, and he played off, at least he played the climate change expert. I honestly don't know how much. He's just the most concerned climate change person. And I believe he got on Yang for saying it's not too late when Yang said it's already too late.
Yeah, it could possibly. I don't quite remember. Inslee, I'm not sure why he's running. I think he might honestly just be running to get his environmental message out there. And hey, if he's doing it, more power to him.
Yeah. Cabinet position.
He really probably is looking for a cabinet position. I don't want to say he's looking for. He may end up with a cabinet position or the head of the EPA or something out of this.
Yeah, this is a stepping stone
Yeah,
running is. He's got his name out there. I'd never heard of Inslee before this, and so now I do know he's a climate change guy.
And he has gotten a lot done in Washington. I definitely, it would be nice to see someone in the cabinet or in the EPA who isn't big oil, like all of Trump's people. And the Democrats haven't honestly been great on that either.
No,
but,
they do bow to corporate sponsors. Inslee definitely gets there. It seems like that's his one issue, though, and a one-issue candidate is a bit boring. Inslee did call Trump a white nationalist.
Yeah, no, Inslee called it out. I don't think anyone was afraid of calling him racist, though. I don't think this is like, his party colleagues, party members, whatever you want to call them. I mean, like, okay, Mitt Romney was so critical of Trump, and he says something blatantly racist. Now Mitt Romney's like, I don't think it was racist.
Lindsey Graham called him a xenophobe and racist.
Yeah,
and now is kowtowing to him in all ways. That was interesting. He called the President of the United States a white nationalist,
yeah.
a racist.
No, he is.
And Trump is. And so, interesting, no one cares.
Yeah, no one cares.
So while Inslee was fun, I don't necessarily think he had much to say other than climate change is bad and we have to do something now.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. What's with Castro? What did you think?
Who is Castro? He was a HUD guy?
He was Obama's HUD secretary during the Obama's second term.
He had the great one-liner of "Adios, Trump."
Yeah,
that
that's
was
how
fun.
he slipped into Spanish this time. Unlike all three candidates tried to speak Spanish during the last debate.
Yeah, so that he's charming. They didn't give him a lot of time, but he also didn't distinguish himself
Yeah.
as much. He's new at this.
Yeah, his big issue is immigration. Much like Inslee's issue is the environment.
Yeah,
It's
he's
what he's
kind of
an
the one
yeah.
issue.
Issue. Biden and him did get into it a little bit. He was asking Biden about immigration, and Biden said, "I never heard you talk about that in all the cabinet meetings or whatever." Granted,
He was in HUD.
he was the HUD secretary,
That wasn't
so
his job.
it wasn't his job. On the other hand, it is
I wouldn't expect the Secretary of Defense to talk about housing.
something. That's true. Slight
It's-
adjustment there.
One issue is immigration, and Biden attacked him for not talking about it when he was housing secretary, which makes no sense.
Yeah, I agree. It's
And adios Trump, I like that, but he really didn't. There was a lot of candidates, but he didn't get out there and shine. I
Yeah,
don't think.
no, he didn't shine a whole lot. Again, I feel like we don't have much to say because we got nothing to say about this night. All the power was in the first night.
Yeah, it was. Yang did have a little bit to say. It was kind of fun. He opened up with a good quip.
Yeah, what was it? The opposite of Trump is the Asian man who likes math, which I appreciate. I really appreciate the fact that we know that our dear leader can't add.
Yeah, he addressed his race right in that, and he had a dig in at Trump, which was fun. That was really fun.
His big position, of course, is universal income. He wants to give everyone about $1,000 a month. He's a well-spoken guy, too. I mean, he does. You weren't quite to that point, but I was getting a little nauseated how universal basic income was woven into every single answer.
I do think, like Inslee, that is Inslee's environmental thing. This is his one shtick.
Yeah.
But this is an immediate shtick that you can imagine $1,000 extra in your pocket.
Yeah.
And so many people that don't vote, that probably could benefit from this, won't vote in the next election. This would have immediate consequences for people who need $1,000 in their pocket. Is it real? Oh, I don't think
What
that
kind of
most Democrats
inflation
would
would it
even
cost?
want to do it.
Yeah.
$1,000. So many people would be angry about this because many people don't need it.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
So
that's
you know what? I really like Yang. I am not going to vote for him, but I think he is a genius guy. I think he does have a good point that if we double the minimum wage overnight, because it should not be where it's at now, if we double it, people may start to automate their plants, their factories, their McDonald's, their Walmarts, whatever. Had we just been doing quarter increases for this long and getting people up to, it should be like nearly $21 an hour for a minimum wage now, no one's going to replace their employees with robots if they have to pay a quarter more. If they have to pay $8 or more an hour, that could happen.
true. So he is answering the economic question. He is at least have an answer for it, where so many people just don't.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about automation? He sees it coming.
Yeah.
He has a plan. Maybe it's not the best plan, but he's the only one that seems like he has an
There's a
honest
lot.
plan of how to address that.
Yeah.
His climate change was interesting. He says it's too late. So maybe he's just preparing for a reality where climate change is it's too late, and we should get ready for it.
And I missed it, but you said Inslee was kind of arguing with him. It wasn't. I can see from Inslee's point of view, because if you think it's too late, you don't do anything.
Yeah.
I think it is going to be too late, but that's another question. It's why it's really good that we live in the middle of the country right now. So, Gillibrand, what'd you think?
Soccer mom,
Yeah, she did come off as a suburban soccer mom. I will give you that.
which is what a Trump voter, a woman Trump voter,
Yeah, she's
white
definitely
woman Trump
rocking
voter.
the pink last night.
She did make the interesting comment that she would be specially able to talk to white suburban soccer moms and house moms about race.
Yeah, and I do
The
think
pack of M&Ms line was good.
Yeah. No, I think she is addressing something that more white Americans need to address, is the fact that we don't have the same fear as parents or people of color in general.
There are people who don't believe white privilege exists.
Yeah,
and I think as Harris said too, which I'm getting a little off subject. Harris said this doesn't mean that white people aren't hurting. There are white people
there
who
are
are
definitely
born hurting.
white people hurting. It's that there's an added hurt in this country for multiple reasons on multiple levels when you're a person of color.
And we don't seem to talk about it as
No.
white people.
No, we don't. We just seem to think, well, we have an equal rights amendment, so everything, or no, we don't have the equal rights amendment. Excuse me, we have,
Everything's just okay. Everything's
civil
just
rights
okay.
amendment. There we go. Yeah.
That's what we believe.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely far from true. So that was nice. She did talk a bit about healthcare. She stole Marianne Williams' line that we don't have a healthcare
We have sick care.
problem. We have a sick care problem.
That was kind of her shtick. That was
Yeah,
the only thing
that
she really
was-
said.
yeah.
Unfortunately, she didn't get a lot of time.
Yeah, she did try to attack Biden on his question about women. It was something to the effect of women joining the workplace are ruining the fabric of American society. Biden deflected. Apparently, he said that in a New York Times op-ed. I have not read that. Excuse me. I've not read the New York Times op-ed. And he basically said it was what she's saying is out of context, that he was a single father, which he jumps to a lot in deflection. But he also said that
it was a good attack by her, I think.
Yeah.
It was a good attack on Biden.
Yeah, he did say, though, that his deceased wife and his current wife have always worked. So, yeah, that was pretty much Gillibrand's whole night. I didn't feel like they called on her that much. In fact, like 2 times when she was called on, I think it was like, it shocked her she had to answer. Like,
it is
she was
true.
like, whoa,
She
you
was the
called
kid in
on
class
me?
that I got called on.
Yeah, she was enjoying the show and wasn't really prepared to be called on. Not in a bad way. And she didn't totally fumble, but it was almost like she got so used to not being called on. She was like, what? You called on me?
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Booker, I guess.
Booker?
Cory Booker?
Booker, okay.
Booker, yeah.
He was better.
Yeah.
He had a quip in there when Biden said President Booker, I believe. or
Yeah,
something like-
yeah. Thank you for...
Endorsing my presidency already.
yeah, he's a smooth talker.
He is. He was also mayor of Newark, across from New York City, though. So
Yeah.
he's had his share of violence and being a mayor,
Yeah.
like Mayor Pete, but of a much more important city in America, really.
He did.
Not to monopolize importance.
He
but-
did get in some back and forth with Biden along those same lines as when Biden misspoke and called him president. He famously, it's been a few hours, famously stated, you're dipping in the Kool-Aid before you know the flavor?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm not as
he
familiar.
definitely, I think, deserves to stay on. He
Yeah.
just was polished, but overall, like the rest of the debate, it just wasn't amazing or great. He was just good, which,
Mm-hmm.
like pizza, it's good, but you can have great pizza sometimes, you know?
Yeah. And again, these were not the best nights, best night for talking. I mean, I don't think we learned anything new last night.
No, that was sort of the problem. Maybe we're going to get in too many debates, and if they're having so many, we could have just broken it up and given the candidates more time.
Yeah.
Booker could have shined if he was given more time, perhaps.
But he did better than last time.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably make the next debate. But you're right. There's not a lot to say when you have 1 minute to answer a thing that university professors give classes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in multiple levels. Like this type of economics number 1, and there's number 2, and then advanced next year. I mean, it's
He seems the type that needs more time to explain, which that could be a problem when talking to Trump, which I don't know if Trump will actually have a debate.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
doubt Trump will debate, period. He did better. So I hope to see him again. It just, like the rest of the debate was just okay, though.
yeah. De Blasio.
Came out, had some problems, though, because New York City has some problems, but 8 million people in one city, it's going to have problems.
Yeah. Should mention De Blasio was the only true progressive, I think, on stage last night.
Yeah.
He is the only one that is for Medicare for all.
Mm-hmm.
Though I would call Yang a progressive, but not in the same fashion.
I think Yang wants to, neoliberal? He wants to, almost in a weird way, he just wants to solve problems through industry and capitalism.
He wants to solve it through money.
Yeah, so he does. He literally wants to throw
Yeah,
money at you to solve
$1,000
it.
a month isn't going to do jack if you end up in the hospital, though.
Yeah, that's true.
So-
It might do something for student debt, though. You'll keep up your student debt bills if you get $1,000 a month. So that is true.
That is true. But we'll get onto it later.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we could talk about it now, too. We have already mentioned, some of the other candidates have plans for getting rid of student debt altogether
That's true, yeah.
and not charging tuition, so there wouldn't be more student debt.
De Blasio, though.
De Blasio, back to De Blasio, man. It's Eric Gardner. Eric Gardner, I apologize, can't say it,
was murdered.
was murdered 5 years ago by a New York police officer who's still on the force. There were 2 protest interruptions last night, and the first one was about about the
murder of Eric
Pantaleo.
Garner, yeah.
I think they were yelling fire Pantaleo, who is the cop.
officer who used an illegal chokehold on Garner and murdered him.
Yeah, 11 times Garner said that he couldn't breathe. And
Garner was selling loose cigarettes on the street.
Is that what it was?
It's that
I
simple.
hate to say this, but there's been so many of these that I can't remember what each person was supposedly doing wrong anymore.
Selling loose cigarettes. How is that going to put anyone out of business?
How is that like?
And what
why
is
are
it-
you in a chokehold for that?
And why are the police bothering someone like that when
Yeah.
it's New York City?
So, in response to this, de Blasio said, look, the Justice Department told us we couldn't do anything, and it's been 5 years, and they just announced that nothing's happening, but something will happen in the next 30 days. I think for his candidacy it better, but the fact is, no matter what happens, even if this police officer has been prosecuted now, he's been out 5 years too long.
Yeah, even if he is fired, he might have a case for not being fired because they would have found him. I mean,
Yeah.
New York City accepted the U.S. The Attorney General's idea that he shouldn't be guilty.
Yeah,
and so Eric Garner was justly murdered by this police officer, and the U.S. District Attorney's Office said it was okay. And so if he does fired, he might be able to sue New York City and rally the
Yeah,
cops. So
yeah.
I don't know. He should have been fired right off.
I know, he should
Keeping
have
him
been.
on 5 years is a huge mistake.
I have a sick feeling de Blasio did this because he has not gotten on well with the police department, has had a number of issues with the union.
That's why. Funny enough,
yeah,
a union man.
union
The
man.
police union is the only right-wing police union or union that exists in the world, is because no one's going to attack a union
Yeah.
like that for the police.
Police, yeah, and yeah, it's sad. It's sad this whole thing shouldn't exist. But I think de Blasio is not going to last much longer in this race. I don't think he's going to make the next debate. And the big thing drawing him down is this Eric Garner thing, and it wasn't handled well.
No.
He probably should have just gotten in that bigger fight with the police department because it's hurt him a lot more, and it's hurt the Garner family a lot more. And other than that, he tried to lay some blows in. He tried to get in there like he did in the first debate and tried to lay some blows on Biden. But it was even weird when he was asked about why Pantaleo hadn't been fired. He gave this excuse about the Justice Department and something would happen in the next 30 days, and then asked.
It was the Justice Department that.
The Justice Department, and then
I think I said Attorney General.
I'm
so.
sorry, yeah, the Justice Department, and he asked Vice President Biden why he was there for 4 of these years and nothing happened, or 2 of these years, I can't remember, and nothing happened. Well, actually, the president shouldn't be telling the Justice Department what to do. That's been in the news a lot lately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So unfortunate situation all around. And de Blasio, probably for the sake of keeping his police force happy, let this murderer go.
Yeah, and it's caused a lot
and
of
Eric
things.
Garner has been murdered,
Yeah,
and that's
and-
it. 5 years gone, and the cop got away with it. And
It's going to affect things.
Yeah, I mean, what is the union going to do now when Garner's murderer, Pantaleo, gets fired?
Yeah. And you know what the thing is, all of these cops that a lot of them have been acquitted, but they've had to leave the forces they were on out of fear for their own lives after these killings, have moved on
Or just
and
remorse, for God's sake.
remorse, have had to move on and but they've gotten jobs at other police departments.
Yeah.
So even if he is fired, he'll probably just find a job somewhere else.
It's a nationwide problem that goes beyond just de Blasio and the murder that killed Eric Garner.
Yeah. Okay, so next we have Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii. We had another president born in Hawaii.
Yeah, we did. Popular one at that.
Yeah. I don't think she has the charisma of Barack Obama.
No, I don't either. She's a soldier.
Was in a medical unit, I believe, back in the hospital area, has so seen the carnage of war, and her strong point is get us out of Afghanistan within a year.
She definitely, her focus, kind of like Inslee's, was environment. Castro's is immigration. Hers is bringing troops home.
Yes, and I do remember 2008 was about ending the Iraq War. We forget that now, but in Obama's first term, we did end the war. And we're not doing tweet diplomacy like Trump, Tweety Trump. who said we would get out of Afghanistan and then didn't, or said we'd get out of Syria, but we haven't quite. He just, yeah, I don't believe she'll tweet out her announcements that we'll leave. And
Yeah.
She fought back when they said there shouldn't be a time limit.
Yeah.
I think Mayor Pete said there shouldn't be a time limit. Was that?
No, I don't know. Was it Mayor Pete? No, they weren't even. Mayor Pete was the first night.
Oh,
we
was
were
he?
the
Gosh,
second.
like I
So
said, they bleed together.
They bleed together. Yeah.
Being the second night just wasn't a good lineup.
Some did. I think Bennett maybe said it. Harris. Gabbard also attacked Harris's prosecution record in California, which was interesting. And it was interesting because it kind of was like Gabbard did her homework and knew what to bring up, and Harris wasn't expecting that, I think. So
yeah, I think she looks like she might be running for VP.
yeah, I think that is my theory here.
Soldier
now I'll say
who
it.
wants to get out of war makes it great.
I think she is running for VP because Biden is still the front runner. He's still ahead in the polls. She has been defending Biden in the last week or two, and she also is a woman. She's a soldier. There's a lot of things in her that
Hawaii is just foreign enough.
Yeah.
He has a slight Hawaiian accent there.
Yeah. So she might be enough to, at least in how we look at campaigns or races now, draw in some other people. Man, I don't know. But
they didn't really get around to her, but what she said was good. It just wasn't a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I don't think she's going to make the next debate either.
No, they didn't
so-
give her enough time.
No,
That's what really
she really
came down
didn't
to it.
talk a whole lot.
No, what she said was powerful, but just not enough to pass
Yeah.
because she didn't have the time.
Okay.
VP definitely. I think that's what we're seeing.
She's seeing out of her.
It would be much better than Pence. Boring Pence. They call Sleepy Joe. Trump calls Biden Sleepy Joe.
Sleepy Joe. Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Pence is definitely sleepy. Should we move on to Harris?
Yeah, probably. So we decided Harris was next because she's not quite the front
Yeah,
runner.
almost exit stage just because her demeanor was that of a teacher on Friday at 3 p.m.
Yeah, she looked a little beaten down and she looked a little unprepared for the attacks that came her way.
Not expecting them, yeah.
Yeah, which surprised me because she went after Biden last time and immediately went right up in the polls. So I would assume you'd expect if you were a little higher in the polls that someone might be trying to knock you out. You don't necessarily try and knock out the person at the top. You try and knock out people above you to raise in the standings.
Yeah.
I mean, right now it is literally we've got to survive for so long. We honestly don't know who's going to be the front runner, come January.
Yes, exactly.
When the caucuses
With her
and
performance
primaries
last
start.
night, I don't think it's going to be her, though.
No, I don't know. She's popular. I have a feeling it's not going to be her, though.
She has, being the chief prosecutor of the state of California, right? Mm-hmm. She put a lot of people away from marijuana, and as that becomes more legal.
Yeah,
and,
most famously, she put parents in jail. I don't even know if that was mentioned, but she put parents in jail when their kids were truant in school, and
So-
that was when she was in, I believe, San Diego.
That's almost an exit
No, excuse
right.
me, San Francisco.
Right there.
Yeah.
That's not good for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, do you think the kids went to school after their parents were in jail? Come on.
We wonder why America has the highest incarceration rate. It's because we throw parents in jail.
And pot smokers. Come on.
Yeah.
Really.
But I mean, literally, aren't we throwing other parents in jail at the border right now? She did the same thing. She separated
is
children from their parents
parents.
and then threw the parents in a jail cell and probably the kids in a foster home, which is just a cushy jail cell.
Yeah.
So for me, that's an exit right.
Yeah. You're done after that?
I'm done, actually.
Put a cork in it. Put a fork in it.
Yep.
So that brings us to the current frontrunner, who is Joe Biden.
Joe Biden looked polished. Same old Joe we've seen forever, though.
Yeah, he was better prepared for this debate, definitely. He didn't get caught off guard in the same way he did with Harris. He deflected a lot, though. He did not answer all the questions.
he was a good politician there, but I think his style of politicalness was definitely a fly off your head there.
Filming
I think
outside.
his style of politics, though, was a 1980s Democrat again, or
Yeah,
1970s
70s.
Democrat. Trump will sink him. I don't think.
Yeah, I think he was, and this was brought up, I believe it was brought up by Booker, that you can't invoke Obama's name for everything.
And that's what he does. He
And that
definitely
does-
rides coat. And then he shares all of Obama's blames of what the 3 million people.
Oh yeah, and that was so the second protest of the night were people yelling, I just believe 3 million.
Yeah, I think.
And that was in reference to the 3 million people who were deported while President Obama was president, and therefore Joe Biden was vice president. And I believe Joe Biden played a larger role in those deportations. What really drove me nuts about this is he kept deflecting and not answering. And I remember President Obama saying very specifically, we're only going after the people who have been arrested for a crime.
Exactly, by not saying
or
that
convicted of a crime.
What crossing the border illegally is actually a civil violation. It's not even really a crime. It's like a speeding ticket, essentially.
Yeah, it's supposed to not be, but it's been treated different by
the current administration.
The orange one.
Yeah.
And I think if he would have just said, he kept saying, well, I have to do what the president said. Well, I think if he had just said, look, President Obama was concerned about public safety, so we decided that we needed to deport the people who had been convicted or charged in maybe they ran away or whatever, get them out of the country. But he didn't even say that. It was like, I don't know, I felt like he almost panicked a lot and was like, I can't think this through right now. I can't think this through right now.
I just think he has this in the bag, and this is a waste of time for him.
You think that's how he feels?
Yeah. Well,
I think he felt that way definitely until the last one when Kamala Harris really weighed into him.
Biden definitely isn't going towards. He's acting like it's in the bag almost already.
Yeah, I know he is.
And he hasn't. He just doesn't seem like he's going for the progressive wing of the party at all.
Mm-hmm.
And his attacks on Medicare for all are reminiscent of Republican attacks.
And Gillibrand, she also attacked him about what we already talked about the op-ed. We did when we talked about Gillibrand,
mm-hmm.
but Gillibrand did attack him about that. Again,
he deflected.
He
went back to his deceased wife.
And I was a single father for 5 years.
He seems to go back to a lot, which is true. But is that fair to his wife and his deceased children? Maybe it's taboo to say, but he didn't answer the question. He went to, I had a family tragedy.
Yeah, no, he definitely does that a lot. And sometimes I think it's well justified. One time in the vice presidential debates, I can't remember what it was, but he basically said, no, you'll never know what it's like to feel pain. And he was referencing, and he was right,
True.
You've not lost a spouse, you've not lost your little daughter in a horrible accident, had your sons in traction, you don't know what that's like. So I think it can be invoked appropriately. Sometimes it just gets a little overdone.
Still, he doesn't know what it's like to be a single working mother.
No,
he can't.
And he was well paid either way.
Yes.
So he also got to take the train home every night. So it's not like his kids were displaced or he had to live separately from them. Yeah, he had some really long days, and I'm sure he had to have
insurance paid by the taxpayers.
Yeah, I'm sure he had someone watching his young sons, but he could go home at night.
Yes, and he has tragedy. He lost Beau Biden not too long ago.
Yeah, and he has lost another child. Let's not forget this man has lost 2 children. No one's to see any of their children die, but he has lost 2 and a wife. So
definitely
both and I mean, obviously, it's not like his wife died of old age. She was killed in a car accident. So was his daughter, and Beau died
just a few years ago. I think.
And he was in his 30s, maybe?
Yeah, he wasn't even yet 40.
He wasn't that old. And he was a veteran. He wasn't that old.
Attorney General of Delaware,
mm-hmm.
so he was going to be the Biden that took over for
mm-hmm.
Joe. And I think maybe Joe's past his prime here. He's kind of an Obama relic, which I don't want to say Castro is, but Biden should exit stage right. It's just unfortunately, I think that the older demographic of Democrats like Biden because he reminds them of themselves.
Well,
so the baby boomer Dems, especially the Caucasians,
we like what we know, and we know Biden. And Biden was really lovable when he was vice president because he wasn't president.
Yeah,
he made all kinds of gaffes and other things which were funny because he wasn't the president.
He also made a big deal of his Catholicism, which was good. It helped get that type of the vote. So he hasn't played that up this time though.
Maybe it's probably early.
It is too early for that. Yeah, you might have. I don't know the religions of all the people.
Yeah,
there.
But I don't. Other than that, he did better. I don't think maybe he was shining as bright. I think
like the rest of the debate, it just wasn't.
It wasn't. There was not any. Inslee, I think, did very well on his environmental talk. As I said, if that's his point, I think he did that well. Gabbard got in there a little bit. Yang at least got to talk more than 2 minutes. It was, not he didn't get to talk nearly as much as a lot of the others, but he did get to at least talk where he barely spoke in the first debate. Yeah, so those were the two debates. Now the big question is, who can beat Trump?
Who could beat Trump? It might depend on who they pick as VP too. So we might have a wonderful VP that we haven't even thought of out there yet, who
Yeah.
hasn't run for president. That's a key
So
too. But
my crazy idea while they were kung fu fighting is Warren and Bernie could kick some tail if they were running mates.
no, two
Yeah.
old people from the East Coast is not ideal at all. Two old white people from the. He may be Jewish, but he's still white.
Well, I do think having a Jewish man as president would be hilarious because I think white nationalist heads would explode.
I do think so too, especially even that right winger, Ben Shapiro, who is called Bernie Jewish by ethnic but not by practice. Though the thing is, two old white people from the East Coast, Northeast, is not going to win,
I know.
and so that's not no.
Well, let's take into account here, Trump is not a spring chicken either. They're all old.
The thing is, Trump has. Okay, if Trump looked like Bernie, he would give people the creeps, like some people have from Bernie. Bernie is maligned constantly because
Yeah,
he
Trump gives
doesn't
me the
look
creeps.
pretty.
No, but
He's-
Trump is creepy, man. He's orange.
He is creepy, but
his hair does
he's a
that
well
thing.
manicured creepy man. He is meticulous. He's manicured. He's the softest man with the softest hands and the softer lips. He has.
Giving me the heebie-jeebies, dude.
Yeah, he is a soft man who has been well taken care of. Bernie is a carpenter
Yeah.
who went into the working for the people.
No.
Bernie's
yeah.
a man who went to the Soviet Union, drank with them, and took his shirt off.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
There's
I didn't
video
know
of
that.
it.
That's awesome.
This is not something Trump would do. So, but this is also something that the mainstream media, who Trump loves to lament, but also sides with them when it comes to crazy Bernie.
But it is a side of America I would like to see for a change. I really appreciated when Bernie was running against Hillary that his wife would come on stage and she wasn't wearing makeup. No, I wear makeup sometimes. I'm wearing it now. I don't wear it every day, but it was nice to see that a woman felt confident enough to come on stage and be who she was. And I feel in the same way Bernie is that way. I mean, all those guys last night were wearing makeup.
Yes, and I do want to say,
yeah.
difference too, a social democrat can also be, well, a capitalist, which Bernie is. He lives in a capitalist system and he's made money from it. So if he can get rich, he's not going to take other rich people. So
Yeah.
rich people shouldn't have to fear from this.
Yeah.
There's definitely some more energy, I think, with younger folks this time with Warren, but Warren seems popular among women
Yeah.
too, which
Yeah.
hopefully there.
Yeah. So, and then of course Biden is still the front runner. Harris has crept up
Can
in the
he
polls.
beat? I don't know.
I don't, unless something amazing starts happening. I think he's going to
He needs to how to fight
keep
back.
falling in the polls. I think.
Well, I mean, Biden.
Give it. I don't know. The polls really haven't been out yet. We need to. I'd say give it about 3 weeks and see where he's at in the polls.
Biden, though, just doesn't have the temperament to take on Trump, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he can make fun of Trump and keep the crowd laughing. That's the only thing that can really beat Trump is a more comedic tone. Make fun of Trump rather than...
Like that one guy who that comedian who's running hasn't made the debates.
Yeah.
Glebe.
I don't remember his name quite.
But yeah, there are
That's
people.
the problem. If we don't know his name, he's not getting anywhere.
Well, yeah, that is the problem. I was I looked on CNN this morning because just to make sure I had the lineups right before we filmed this. And I had a drop-down ad from another guy who hasn't been in any of the debates who's running for president. I didn't even know who he was. So there are other people running for president who don't even qualify for these debates. For the next debate, you have to get at least 160,000 donations from people in at least 20 different states. And you have to get at least 2% in the polls in 4 different recognized polls. And ABC Univision is putting on the next one, so I guess they're determining what a recognized poll is. I imagine if it shows up on Real Clear Politics, it's probably a recognized poll.
Yes.
So I think, and I was kind of, there's already 7 people who have qualified for that. It is Biden, Beto, Sanders, Warren, Harris, Buttigieg, and Booker. And I do realize I'm calling Beto instead of O'Rourke, but he does kind of go
He goes
like
by Beto.
Beto.
That's what
so-
everyone, yeah.
Yeah,
That's perfectly fine.
Klobuchar is really close to being in the race at this point.
Bernie is Bernie.
Yeah.
So Beto could be Beto.
Yeah, that's true. Yang and Castro are not far behind, so I think we might be looking at a ticket of 10. They are booked over 2 nights, I think, to be safe. If we have 10, I'm going to go out there and say, keep your 2 nice guys and let's go 5 on 5.
5 on 5 would be much better because 10 didn't allow anyone. It didn't allow people to shine. It didn't allow Harris to come back. It didn't allow Gabbard to really get in there. It didn't allow any of them to. Gillibrand was not allowed to speak much. And what is it the other night with the holistic? Marianne did not get time. She acted the most adult, though. She still didn't get in there.
So, I think that's kind of where we stand. Do you have a favorite now so far? If you had to vote tomorrow, who would you vote for?
I would probably have to vote either Sanders or Warren. It doesn't mean it's the best who can win, but it's the one.
Like morally, you have to do it.
Well, I think they're right that we just have to. Mayor Pete was right. They're going to call us socialist either way. So let's just be what's best for America. Let's stop thinking what Trump wants, what we scared of Trump, and let's think about what's best for everyone in this nation. And that's Warren or Sanders. De Blasio even has some good stuff with his baggage. Yeah. Their age does concern me. Trump is also very old, though, so...
Yeah, it seems to be like Clinton, Bush, Trump are all like the same age.
Yeah, we always thought that age had ended when Obama came.
Nope,
Obama was an anomaly.
They're just coming back. Yeah,
Obama was a true anomaly.
Yeah, he was the younger dude. So...
In the meantime, there might be something. There could always be a flub. Biden could say something stupid. Racist tapes could come out.
Biden could easily say something stupid.
The Nixon-Reagan racist tapes have recently come
out. Those are, if you have not seen those are heavy. You need to check out who you right-wingers think your God is, because he is not a nice guy. Though he's racist, we knew he was racist, and I think a lot of the people who adore him are racist, so I maybe they won't care at all.
They don't care because, they don't see themselves as racist, however, and they'll forgive that as they forgive Trump for anything racist he says.
In this video,
racist.
Ronald Reagan referred to Africans as monkeys.
Yes.
And it was really hard to listen to.
So, who's can beat it? I think, we should just go for it. We should stop trying to cater to the right.
No, I think Buttigieg is totally right on this. Mayor Pete has this in the bag. We're going to be socialists no matter what we do. So let's do this right. And we need to stop saying we need to be in the middle so we can. No, if we're in the middle and they're over here, we have to move over here. Let's be way over here and make them move over here, move closer to us.
Exactly.
Because this healthcare system is not working. This environment is about collapsed. We're ruining our world. The minimum wage should be $20-some an hour, and it is still $7.25 an hour. I mean, it is insane. We are living almost in dystopian times by, what?
That's true. People are dying because they're rationing insulin. People are dying without medical care.
People are dying.
There was a report out that just said 15,000 people have died in states that didn't expand Medicare between 13 and 17.
Scary.
So what's the difference between ISIS and Republicans? Well, ISIS isn't killing as many as Republicans are.
Yeah, no. And
so why don't we just go on and do what's best for America and save Americans? This is true patriotism. True love for America is providing Americans with health care, making sure they get paid well at jobs, and making sure we have a strong educational system and save our environment.
Very true. Yep, I think so. All right. Well, I think that wraps us up. I think remember to exit stage left. And we will see you next time.
All right.